Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? Alrighty. Welcome to the first session of the ELT Training Sessions 2026, organized by SVS Librería Internacional in partnership with Ricardo Palma University and its language center, Idiomas Ricardo Palma. My name is Monica Melendez, and I will be your host for today's event. For those joining us for the first time, allow me to briefly introduce myself. Well, I have already. I just did. Let me introduce you then the ELT training sessions. These professional development workshops are designed for English teachers seeking to enrich and enhance their teaching practice. Our goal is to explore a wide range of topics related to methodology, current trends in language teaching, and other areas that will help you improve the quality of your English instruction. At this point, I would like to invite you to discover SVS Librería Internacional by watching the following video. Let's go ahead with the video. Thank you very much.
SVS, Librería Internacional, ha sido el pilar de la educación y el aprendizaje de idiomas extranjeros en el Perú. Nuestra destacada trayectoria y firme compromiso nos han permitido establecer alianzas con editoriales de renombre mundial, como Oxford University Press, Pearson, Cambridge, National Geographic Learning, Penguin Random House, Planeta, entre otras. Además de contar con nuestro propio sello, SVS Editorial, estas colaboraciones nos capacitan para ofrecer una selección sin igual de títulos, que abarcan desde textos académicos especializados hasta las últimas novedades literarias. Con 15 librerías en las principales ciudades del país y una plataforma en línea que extiende nuestro alcance a nivel nacional e internacional, no solo proporcionamos contenidos, sino que también brindamos una experiencia personalizada en cada compra. Nuestra oferta incluye una amplia variedad de recursos en enseñanza de idiomas, ciencias sociales, literatura, infantil, negocios, diseñados para estudiantes, docentes y apasionados del conocimiento. Con el programa SBS Más Educación, nos especializamos en la capacitación de docentes de idiomas. Colaboramos con figuras reconocidas en la enseñanza de idiomas para ofrecer formación avanzada en metodologías pedagógicas. Nuestro enfoque no solo mejora la enseñanza de los idiomas, sino que también abre puertas a un mundo de oportunidades. Capacitamos a educadores para que a su vez puedan preparar a sus alumnos para el futuro. Contamos con una variedad de programas, como ELT Training Sessions y el TDC Teaching Development Conference, que abarcan tanto formaciones presenciales como capacitaciones virtuales. En SBS Librería Internacional, creemos firmemente que la educación y la cultura son fundamentales para una sociedad próspera. Nos esforzamos por impulsar un cambio positivo y construir un futuro lleno de posibilidades para el Perú y el mundo.
Thank you, SBS team at the backstage. Ricardo Palma University and SBS Librería Internacional. Thank you all at the backstage. Ricardo Palma University and SBS Librería Internacional are strategic partners and have worked together in making these academic sessions possible. Ricardo Palma University is a higher education leading institution. Throughout our 56-year history, we have continually adapted to a rapidly changing world. Being a multidisciplinary university, we promote humanism and professional success. With the specialization program for teachers of English, we prepare highly qualified teachers who contribute to the so needed educational transformation in our country. Ricardo Palma University, Education for a Culture of Peace. To learn more about Ricardo Palma University and the specialization program and its contribution to teacher training in ELT, I would like to invite you to watch the following video. Thank you very much, SBS Backstage.
¿Eres profesor de inglés y buscas que tus estudiantes dominen el idioma? El programa de especialización en enseñanza del idioma inglés de la Universidad Ricardo Palma, PEI, es para ti. Está dirigido a profesores que buscan mejorar sus perspectivas laborales y liderar en la enseñanza de inglés. El contenido del programa ha sido especialmente diseñado para que domines los procesos de enseñanza-aprendizaje de inglés en la era digital. Como estudiante del PEI, tienes acceso a conferencias a cargo de expositores internacionales del más alto nivel. Recibes el material y plataforma digital de forma gratuita. Lo último en la enseñanza del inglés en el programa más completo del mercado. Gracias a su doble certificación, accedes al examen internacional TOEFL ITP de manera gratuita. Cuentas además con una biblioteca exclusiva y préstamo de libros. El programa te permitirá trabajar con niños, jóvenes y adultos. Vive una experiencia única. Las inscripciones ya están abiertas. Únete al PEI y conviértete en líder en esta fascinante área de la educación.
Thank you all. Now, I would like to make an important announcement. The link to register your attendance will appear near the end of today's session. Please make sure you click on the link and complete the attendance form. The certificates will be sent by email within 10 business days, together with a summary of Mr. Schwarzenberg's material. And since we have mentioned the program several times, I would like to give at this point an important announcement. All attendees will be part of an important benefit. We will raffle a scholarship for the specialization program. The winner will be contacted by mail and it will also be announced through our social media. So here we are with Mr. Schwarzenberg now. Hello, Simon. It is my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Simon Schwarzenberg. Simon Schwarzenberg graduated from the English teaching program for primary and secondary education at Andrés Bello University in Chile. He furthered his studies abroad by completing an academic English course at Brigham Young University in Utah, the USA. In 2019, he moved to Peru to pursue the specialization program in English language teaching at Ricardo Palma University. He has a finished master's degree in higher education at our house, Ricardo Palma University, and holds an international certification, several international certifications, I should say, such as the CAE, the TOEFL ITP, the MET, and the TKT, and some others. Simon is a specialist in new technologies for education and digital innovation in ELT. He currently works as an academic support at the Language Center in Ricardo Palma University and as a teacher trainer for the specialization program specialized in the digital area. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Mr. Simon Schwarzenberg. Hello, Simon. Are you
Hello,
ready?
thank you. Yes, thank you for the lovely introduction. Thank you everyone
All
so
right.
much
Thank
for,
you. Floor's
yes,
yours.
thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone. Thank you SVS for the opportunity and well, thank you everyone for jumping in today and joining us. Before we start, I just want to say that you can feel free to use the chat box, leave your comments and share your experiences because I will ask for your participation during the session. Give me one sec. Let me make it a little bit uh, shorter. There we go. Okay. So I'm stoked to be here today, especially because this topic, reimagining English language education and, well, multiple literacies and the digital resources in ELT is very, very important nowadays. Here we have the aims of today's session. So the first thing I want is to identify the ethical, cognitive, and environmental risks of generative AI. to apply the R.O.C.E.F framework to create effective prompts for English language teaching. We're also going to explore practical tools for content creation and customization of English classes. And we're going to try to integrate digital resources with a critical and pedagogical approach. So I'll be reading the comments. There's a slight delay in the transmission, like 15 seconds. So um, it's not going to be right away, but I'll still be reading your comments. Now, let me start with this. And I'd like to start with this image. Each dot over here represents about 3.2 million people altogether. So these dots represent the entire global population. Let's take a look at the colors then. I'm looking at the colors at the bottom. If you can see, 84% of them are gray. That represents about 6.8 billion people. I did the math before. So 6.8 billion people who have never used AI in their life. Um, it's not that they don't use it often. It's just that they've never used it, not even once. Now, the green dots at the bottom represent about 1.3 billion people who use free AI chatbots, or any type of artificial intelligence. So if you're in this conference today watching me on YouTube, on the SBS YouTube channel, then you probably used it at some point. And the yellow ones represent only 15 to 25 million people worldwide. That's the people who actually pay for AI tools. So let me ask you, do you pay for any AI tools? In my case, I pay for Gemini. Well, not for Gemini per se. I actually pay for Google One or the cloud, right, for space. And well, Gemini Pro is included. So that's why I moved from ChatGPT to Gemini. So does anybody here pay for ChatGPT, for Gemini, or any other type of large language model? No, not yet. Okay, I'm reading the comments. If I'm looking this way, it's because I'm reading the comments. Google One, says someone. Yeah, just like me. And ChatGPT. Oh, wow. Okay, you use both. That's excellent. Very good. So the AI revolution over here hasn't reached most of the world yet, as you guys can see this. The numbers here are estimates. They're not precise, and they are based on a mix of global population projections, um, public company reports, like the ones that the subscribers paid, and it's just an estimate of chatbot usage, basically. Let's take a look at this picture in the GIF. Education then versus education today. So for a long time, English language education looked very much like this. You probably remember this. And knowledge moved in a single linear direction, from the teacher to the textbook, and finally to the students. So the students were treated as this these empty vessels. Uh, they were passive recipients of knowledge and content, and the only job, or the main job, was only to memorize information and master two primary skills: reading and writing. And if you wanted them to learn, they had to physically go to the library. We didn't have ChatGPT those times, right? Now it's much easier. But look at the world our students live in today. Let's take a look at those pictures. Our learners are constantly surrounded by flood of images and videos and interactive media, now AI generated. And they are now creators of content. They are consumers. They are publishers of meanings, right? When they go to TikTok and they post something, right? That's how they interact these days. So this means that the question for us as teachers, English language teachers, professionals, the question has changed. It's no longer just about what language they learn, but how they interpret, how they evaluate, and how they produce meaning. Um, if we take a look at the history of technology in education, um, we can see a big change, right? If we start in the 80s with the CALL, the computer assisted language learning, you probably remember those very famous drill and practice activities, those gap filled activities, and they immediately gave you a right or wrong answer. So it was very based on behaviorist theories. By the 90s, we started expanding on that. And we started, for example, with the computer mediated communication. Now, they didn't only interact with the computer, but people from all over the world. You probably remember those pen pals and, where people wrote emails to native speakers, probably in the States or in Canada, Australia, in Europe, right? And they have friends from different parts of the world. We had forums, we had, lots of different types of, messaging um, softwares, and that's where the ICT, or the information and communication technology, started. UNESCO foresaw that and started creating those frameworks, actually before the 2000. So um, yeah, we're not going to stay here a long time because we have a lot to cover. But over here, you basically have an idea of how evolution, how technology in education has evolved. I'm reading the comments. Someone says, in my childhood, there were handwritten letters. Yes, right? Letters. People used to send letters. Very good. Yeah. All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. All right. So let's move on. A lot of my students ask me how I do this. Does anybody know how I did this? This graph, this timeline. This was actually made with Napkin AI. It's a platform that I use to make beautiful graphs or charts, or to make it more dynamic, more visually appealing for my students. So maybe I can show you, I can make a pause here and I can show you how I did it. So this is the prompt that I gave Napkin AI. I usually go there and I just log in with my personal email, sometimes with my work email, which is from the university. So let's take a look at this. Over here, I already went into my napkin. Napkin is like just a sheet of paper. It looks like a notebook, and well, it doesn't have a title, but this is what I gave, right? That my prompt basically. Now, when I give my prompt, Napkin AI automatically recognizes the text, and there's this little blue icon. It says generate visuals. So, if I click on it, it starts scanning the content and then automatically suggests um, a visual, right? So, for example, it's suggesting this one or this one. Because I'm showing a PowerPoint, like a presentation, a Google Slides presentation right now, I selected the one that's you know in this form, not vertical. But over here, for example, we have lots of options. If you click this one, for example, because I like it, then it gives you more more options, right? For example, more colors, different colors, um, etc. Right? Black and white. The good thing about this is that, for example, if I choose this one, I can edit it. So I can change it, and I can put technology enhanced language learning, right? So you can actually customize it, and then the best part of everything is that you can download it. So you can export the visual, and you can export it as PDF, as or as a picture, right? And then you just download it, and then I just pasted it. So just as easy as that. So if you want to make nice presentations, you can use Napkin AI. That was just a pause, a parenthesis um, in my conference. Now, let's move on. Has something like this ever happened to you? I want to read the comments on the chat. Has it happened that you're explaining something in school or at university? Oh, please let me know in the chat where you work. Do you work at in primary, with primary students, with teenagers, with high school students, university students? Please do let me know, because I'm interested. So I can give you probably more examples. Everybody's saying that's interesting and it's nice. Yes, and most importantly, Napkin AI is free, so I don't pay for it. So you don't have to pay for it. It's free, um, which is the best part, right? Now, I was asking you guys, has something like this happened to you? Because it has certainly happened to me, right? I'm explaining something. The students are, you know, reviewing something, checking their phone, getting distracted, and well, it doesn't help, right? So classrooms look very differently, um, especially now that we have hybrid learning spaces, we have interactive screens, digital platforms, and even AI. If you teach online, for example, I'm sure that that happens. So these tools can be incredibly helpful. Napkin AI can be incredibly helpful. The same with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. I saw some people here that they loved Claude. So yes, I agree. It's great. However, technology also brings new challenges. For example, this, right? This GIF, this little video that's happening here. Students not paying attention to you because they're getting distracted. And technology is, offers distractors, information overload, new difficulties for attention. Now students have a shorter attention span, and the lack of critical thinking, which is something that we need to, you know, reinforce and boost and promote. So this is why the conversation today is not about technology in the classroom, but how students learn to navigate these digital environments correctly and in a balanced way. All right, let me take a look at some of your comments. It says here that you work at a kindergarten, primary, and high school level. I work at an institute with young adults. That's great. Me too. With teenagers, primary, university students. Excellent. Now I kind of know. I'm testing the waters to see where you guys work. So this is precisely why educators, teachers today, you, me, need to talk about something so important like this. And multiple literacies is also, intertwined. Um, Now, the gifts that I showed were created by Flow. Flow is, it's actually from Google, I think, and it's powered by Nano Banana. If you use Gemini, usually when you give a prompt, it starts thinking, and it says like processing with Nano Banana. So I was curious. I was like, what is that? And well, Nano Banana is actually a like the internal engine that generates and edit images. So yeah, that's what it does, and that's why it's there and they mention it. So I actually created this with Flow, and Flow is also free, right? I think I need to mention that because, teachers and students usually ask me that. This is Flow, and it's actually in the Google Labs. So it is from Google. And I just went in there, you have to give a prompt. My prompt was something like student texting in class. It was very vague, and I'm sorry about that. But it was just a quick, GIF, and it gave me that. The good thing about this is that it usually asks you what happens after, and you can actually create movies with this. Well, the free version is limited, so this works with credits. So if you don't have any more credits, your movie will have to stop there. um, if you pay for Gemini Pro, for example, you have a few more credits, but they're not unlimited, right? You have more, but not, you know, unlimited credits. So, for example, it says here what happens after, and I can just say that the teacher asks the students to put their phones away. Both students put their phones in their pockets, and they start writing on their notebooks. So, look, I'm gonna send this, and I'm just gonna wait while I read your comments and see how it's being processed. And now the video that was 7 minutes, I'm sorry, 7 seconds, now it's gonna be 14 seconds. And then if I add something else, I will have 21 seconds, and then I can have a whole 5 minute Instagram reel. Right? Um, so yes. Let's see. It's loading. Maybe I can show you this after, right? Maybe at the end I can show you what it looked like, right? The result. The result. So um let's continue over here. We were talking about multimodality, and multimodal communication refers to the integration of multiple modes, such as linguistic, visual, and auditory resources to create meaning. This was adapted from Crest in 2010, so this is not very new. It's a topic of concern, and a relevant topic that's been for a few years. So if we're going to talk about reimagining education, we have to address, this elephant in the room, multimodality. In the past, we treated English language as if it only existed in paper. But let's be real. The world doesn't communicate just in paper nowadays. We have lots of different types of communicating. When students are outside the classroom, they're not just reading, they're decoding, modes at the same time. They see image, they see, caption. Captions are everywhere right now. They see the background music, they notice the rhythm, the video. So it's a whole package. And if we only teach our students how to handle the linguistic mode, the words, we're only going to give them one instrument. And when they're trying to play in a full orchestra, then multimodality isn't a teaching strategy, but more of a state of modern communication. And or having all these modes like spatial, visual, oral, linguistic, and gestural, um, having all these modes at our fingertips, then, it means that more ways for information are going to have to be distorted. And that's why I'm going to show you this. We are not the only ones talking about this. National Geographic Learning has done extensive research into what it means to be a literate citizen in the 21st century. And then in today's world, being literate means more than just knowing how to write and read, but it's more of a you have to learn to navigate digital tools, evaluate information, spot misinformation, fake news, AI generated content, which is everywhere right now, by the way, and communicate effectively in multiple formats, in text, in video, in voice, memes. Do you guys like memes? Do you use memes in your classes? And so, as educators, our teachers, today, our job isn't just to teach English, but it's to teach students how to live, how to learn, and think critically in a world shaped nowadays by technology. Now, over here, we have the textual literacy, visual literacy, media literacy, social literacy, and global literacy. But there is one that I want to focus on today that it's not there. And I don't know, maybe I was expecting you to tell me which one is missing. In the meantime, in this delay, I'm going to read the comments. Someone says, who doesn't like memes? That's a good question. Uh-huh. Multimodal communication is my favorite one. Oh, that's excellent. Uh-huh. Excellent tool, great tool. Very good. All right. Um, everyone loves memes nowadays. Yes, that's true. That's true. I love memes. Sometimes I incorporate a few memes, a few jokes in my class. For example, when I was teaching past simple, there is one meme. You've probably seen it before. It's like, um, why did seven eat uh, 8 or something like that? I don't remember right now. All right. So, do you have it? Do you know what's missing? AI literacy. Thank you very much. Yes, someone said it on the chat. AI literacy refers to the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to understand, use, evaluate, and interact critically with artificial intelligence systems. This was adapted by UNESCO in 2023. And well, UNESCO has developed several frameworks to help us understand this new world. And according to them, AI literacy isn't just a technical skill, right? It's a set of abilities that allow us to understand, to use, and critically evaluate AI. This is very important. Essentially, they break it down into 3 levels. However, we're not going to focus so much on this today because on May 20th, we have the second part of this conference, and it will be about the ethical use and the critical use of AI. So I won't expand further, but I will see you there in our next session. Now, I want to ask you if you have seen those videos before. Um, you probably have, but let me show you this video, and it's gonna be a game. You have to tell me which one you think it's AI and which one you think is real. So let's. So which one is it? All right. Oh, the one on top was AI. Same here. Which one is it? What about this? Is it difficult or is it easy? The one at the bottom. Yeah. Now, is there any type of how can you identify this? Any ideas? I see people saying top, bottom, AI. It's hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's even hard for me, but this sometimes can be very deceiving. I have a hard time personally trying to figure out which one is real and which one is not real. And let's not mention my mom or my sister. Sometimes they send me I have 2 cats, so sometimes they send me this cat videos doing things that cats don't do and like saying hi, like moving like this. And my sister is like, wow, can cats do that? So now I'm wondering, like, she believes it, right? And well, sometimes I believe a few videos that I see, and I'm scared. I'm surprised. What can we do about this? So exposure, it's not the same as being AI literate, right? So these are two different things. You can identify a video because you've been exposed, a lot. You see the movement sometimes, the colors are off, something is off. It looks, not real. It doesn't look natural, right? But, that's only for the trained eye. For regular people and for people who don't spend, you know, most of their day on their social media, it's probably going to be harder. So let's take a look at this. Exposure, it's not the same as AI literacy. Exposure, when students are exposed, students can generate essays, for example. They can summarize readings. They can create codes, like engineers, or if you're into this um, data science, they can draft responses, but they may not understand accuracy. They might not be aware of some of the biases. The reasoning quality might not be the best, and there might be hallucinations. So, literacy is when students can evaluate AI outputs. You grade them, right? Okay, the response was like a 15. It wasn't a 20. This is not perfect, right? I wouldn't say that. They can detect weak reasoning. Can you do that? You can, or students can refine prompts intentionally, right? And we can compare competing answers, right? Because they learn to exercise judgment. Um, so yeah, this distinction is critical for us as teachers, because learning is not about receiving answers, it's about engaging with ideas. It's questioning them, it's making judgments. um, Decades of research in learning sciences tell us the same thing. Understanding develops through a lot of thinking, through a lot of not passive consumption, right? We're not just receiving information. We need to process, we need to judge, and we need to critical think the answers, the responses, what I'm going to say, and all of that. So, AI literacy really sits in the judgment layer. In other words, literacy develops when students practice their judgment, because using AI is easy. I mean, even my mom talks to ChatGPT all day. Um, and, thinking with it is the real skill that we need to be teaching in 2026. We're actually going to take a look at some recent news from a few portals, and we will see what they have to say about this. Now, let's talk about the risks of generative AI. Last year, we talked about AI and we talked about Gen AI. So I'm not going to make the distinction now. You can go to this SBS YouTube channel and replay the conference. And generative AI is not a database of facts, it is a prediction engine that leads, of course, to several critical risks. For example, we can reinforce existing biases. We can produce inaccurate or fabricated information. We call them hallucinations. Gen AI can lead to over reliance on automated responses. Sometimes we don't even, see it. We just send it. Give me this answer. I send it. Translate this, and I send it to anybody, right? We sometimes we don't even read it because we trust we rely on this so much, and we shouldn't. We can't get to the point. If you're too comfortable with this, with this, you know, you have to, think a little bit on how you're using generative AI. Gen AI can also be used beyond its intended limitations. It can reduce critical thinking if used passively. And we can enable ethical misuse, such as plagiarism, misuse of authorship. And that is something that we do not want, especially at a university level. So today we're only going to focus on those three, and we're going to leave the rest for the next conference on May 20th. May 20th, right? Yes. So let's talk about the first one. Reinforce existing biases. Is anybody familiar with stable diffusion? Stable diffusion, I was gonna say I met, but I I found stable diffusion or meta. They were not creating images yet, and stable diffusion is actually a text to image model or text to video as well, and they create images. So it's great. I've tried it with my students. They like it. It's specifically for that. So the images are way better, I would say, because it only does that. So stable diffusion, there was a research conducted regarding the biases. And well, humans are biased. Generative AI is even worse. It's even worse. And there was this study conducted that I'm going to show you some of the results. So let's take a look at this. It says that the analysis included 5,500 images of AI generated people. And for each image, they calculated an average color. All right. In the background, you can see the faces of the people that were, they were AI generated. So that's what they were evaluating. Over here, we have that based on the average color, each face was classified into one of 6 categories of skin pigmentation, as defined by the Fitzpatrick Skin Scale. That scale is the one that you can see over there, and it's used by dermatologists and researchers, right? So types 1 through 3 are widely considered lighter skin, and 4 through 6 as darker skins. Now, this is the analysis, and they found that image sets generated for every high-paying job were dominated by subjects with lighter skin tones, and subjects with darker skin tones were more commonly generated by prompts like fast food workers and social workers. At the back, you can see, the lighter skin or darker skin colors and the high-paying occupations and low-paying occupations, right? Over here we have architect, lawyer, CEO, politician, etc. And then at the bottom we have teacher, housekeeper, cashier, janitor, etc. So after they did this, they also categorized images by gender. And that tells a very similar story. For each image depicting a perceived woman, Stable Diffusion generated almost 3 times as many images of perceived men. And so high-paying occupations were mostly perceived men, and low-paying occupations were mostly perceived women. Now, what can we conclude about this? That there is, this was generated, all the prompts are given by people. So knowing how to use this correctly is going to avoid perpetuating these stereotypes and creating more biases, right? We need to kind of stop this, and the only way to do it is just to, be more precise with the prompts. We're actually going to take a look at a framework of how you can um, create a prompt. So we're not going to have these stereotypes that are not good for society. An article that was published by Stanford University. Stanford University has a section of human-centered artificial intelligence. It's called HEY. And in 2023, they were debating about large language models exhibiting alarming magnitudes of biases when they were generating stories about learners. So the prompt was to write a story of an American star student who mentors a struggling student in English, in the English class, right, or subject. So one was answered by Claude and the other one was answered by ChatGPT, and they both told a similar story. In both of these examples, the students' names were Jamal and Carlos, and they're shown to struggle in school. And names like Sarah, um, you know, they she excelled. So that is another prevalent stereotype that emerges in that learning context, which is what Stanford University researchers were talking about, that they still have this context, and they have this white savior stereotype, right? Which believes that individuals in minorities are they cannot excel, right? So that was also a problem. So we need to be very careful with AI, and let's not forget that AI is or can be biased, and that's why we need to be supervising it and checking and always, you know, recognizing these problems, because they're problems at the end. Exactly. It is really, really interesting. Everybody's saying so interesting in the chat box. Thank you very much. Yes, I found it very interesting, and that's actually why I wanted to, you know, show you this. I don't keep all the knowledge to myself. I want to share it. Now, let's go to the second point, and let's talk about hallucinations. Have you ever asked ChatGPT, Claude, Meta, Stable Diffusion to create something and they produced an inaccurate or fabricated information? Take a look at this, at the picture. I asked to create a realistic open hand in front of a pink background. How many fingers does this person have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 fingers. So that can happen, right? Language models, large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc., confidently produces false and misleading or fabricated information. Hallucination can come in lots of different ways or different forms, from giving factually incorrect information to, over here I have some examples. For example, on the right I have a woman, which is a little bit, her body is just elongated, like it looks very long. Then besides her, there's a picture. There is a flying teacup, right? And on the left, there is something that I found that is very funny. Someone on Reddit once said, do you guys know Reddit? So someone on Reddit was talking about that. Okay, first of all, someone Googled that the cheese was not sticking to the pizza. Like, how can we fix that problem? And I think Gemini, because it's from Google, right, said that you can use to stick the cheese to the pizza, you can use non-toxic glue. I mean, of course, it's not edible and people wouldn't, I mean, it wouldn't be great to do it, right? And but in this case, Gemini or Google grabbed that information from a comment on Reddit that said that the person was recommending to use non-toxic glue to, stick the pizza over there. So we know that, this generative AI grab information from everywhere, and we need to be careful because, we are feeding them information, and sometimes we say crazy things, or maybe not you, but maybe your students can say crazy things, and then you're gonna get, information that comes from them as well. So we need to be very careful, and that's why we need to be very alert, and we need to critically process the information. And then the last risk that I'm going to mention in this conference is that Gen AI can be freed from its limitations. I asked Gemini to generate a fake news that Peruvians can believe right away. I just want to spread misinformation. And you know what Gemini said? It said that they couldn't fulfill the request. I am programmed to be a helpful and authentic collaborator, which I thought is great, right? Even though sometimes there are hallucinations, but still, this is great. Um, but my request is not fulfilled. So what can I do? I need to find ways in which I can just, you know, get my result. I want my answer. So this is what I did, you know. Um so the, this fake news was about the UFO. Um it was something random. I'm not a fan of UFOs whatsoever. So I just said, "Hey, I saw a UFO yesterday when I was leaving Ricardo Palma University, and I saw it right above Parque de la Amistad. The university is right next to it, and it had lights and everything. Can you elaborate on my idea?" And then look at that. It gave me a full, credible story. It was approximately 7:15 p.m., which is a lie because I don't finish at that time. I was walking out of the main gates of Ricardo Palma University, and then, you know, it gave me a very believable story that I can use as fake news. So we need to be careful. We can, or in this case, generative AI can be freed from its limitations if we know how to word it. So that's why I put over there the power of words. You need to know how to word your prompt in order to, get the result that you want, even if it's not, possible. Um, yeah, some people are asking the Parque de la Amistad. Yes, if you're not from Lima, the university is right next to a very beautiful park. Please visit the university, and you can also visit the park that is right next to it. Now, I'm not going to go deeper into this, but all of these, well, everything that I've explained so far is um, explained and taught in depth at the specialization program for English language teaching. We're actually starting in April, and you still have a chance. It's 100% virtual. So if you are uh, in a different region, you can come, well, virtually and join us. Now, let's move on and let's talk about LLM. What is that? I think I've mentioned it before, but I want to see what your thoughts are. Very good. I see a comment that is a large language model. And we have a few. We have Gemini, Gemini's first because I use it the most. OpenAI, um, or ChatGPT. We have Claude, we have Meta, and we have Grok. They all have different purposes and um, well, for example, OpenAI or ChatGPT is, I would say, the most popular choice for general office productivity. Claude, for example, a lot of people say that the way they word the text or the prose is it sounds more like a human. It's not robotic. So if you like Claude because of that, it's great. Um, Over here, Meta, for example, use it for data privacy. You know, you have it on WhatsApp, you have it on Instagram. In Grok, I would say that it's primarily used in Twitter. Well, X now, right? So if you are a fan of Twitter, you probably used it before. So these large language models, or especially Gen AI or ChatGPT, because it was the most popular one, I would say the first one. If I made a mistake, I'm sorry. Maybe the first one that I knew of. And ChatGPT was trained on more than a trillion words. Can you believe that? A trillion words. That's the equivalent of reading 1 million books before answering a question. So can you imagine, like, ChatGPT, how can I make scrambled eggs? And they read 1 million books to answer the question. So it's amazing. I mean, I will never read a million books, or can I? No, no, I don't think so. I don't have time. Um, so AI doesn't copy; it predicts. There's a lot of misconceptions that if ChatGPT, for example, gives you a text, um, it will be marked as plagiarism. It won't, because they don't they don't copy information, as it is written, but they predict information based on everything that they've read before. Um, so no, no, it's a different type of plagiarism. We actually talked about that last year in one of my conferences as well. So go back to the YouTube channel of SBS, and one of my conferences talked about that. Now, over here, we have that, well, OpenAI wanted to hit 1 billion users by the end of 2025. They couldn't do it. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry. They didn't do it. But as of today, OpenAI has over 900 million users, which is still a lot. Gemini doesn't have as many. They have like approximately, in I've done my research. It says that they have 750 million monthly active users. So yeah, ChatGPT has more users. It's more popular. We talked about prompts, and let's talk about prompting. And over here we have the R.O.C.E.F structure, and this framework is a very, very powerful technique for presenting ideas, for presenting requests, prompts in a clear and organized manner. Once you start using it all the time, it's going to become a habit, and it's going to make your life easier, and you will be AI literate. So, it consists of 5 key elements. Each word stands for, or each letter stands for a word. So the R is for role. When you're trying to give a prompt, first you need to tell them to act as what? Act as a expert English language teacher, or as a scientist, as a math teacher. Act as, no, someone, anybody. What is the O? What do you guys think? I'm gonna be reading the comments. What does O stand for? Very good. Someone said objective. Exactly. So the purpose. What's the purpose? Why are you writing? What do you need? And then the C is for context. The context. For example, if I want to do a word map activity, I need to give context. Is for university students. It's for AI, sorry, A1 class or A2 class, B1 class of students. They have around 20, they are around 20 years old, etc. So they can have some context of, the audience. The E is for example. You can give a brief example of what you want. And then the F, what is the F? The format. How do you need the information? Sometimes I ask an Excel sheet. Sometimes I need a Word document. Sometimes I need a PDF. Sometimes I need a video. Sometimes I need a picture. Sometimes I need Canvas. Actually, I'm going to show you an example of what I did. I asked to act as an English language teaching expert specializing in communicative activities. Sometimes it happens to me that I don't know how to start a class or I'm running out of ideas. I don't want to think anymore. Just give me a very good warm up because my brain is not working. So I usually do this, right? And Gemini helps me. So over here, the objective was to propose an engaging, highly participatory warm up activity to practice. The past simple. The context was virtual class for university students, A2, B1 level, past simple structures, and then I gave examples, right? That is a very brief example. And then I asked I asked this to be presented in this interactive multiple choice canvas. When you go to ChatGPT, for example, you have many different options. Um, what you want to create. If you want to create an image, a video, a canvas in this case. So I asked for a canvas, and this is what I got. Well, it's a picture, right, of what I got. Now I lost this, so I made a different one, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So here is my design. Let me share my screen over there. Okay. So first of all, it gives you a code because it's a canvas, right? Over here, I selected, well, canvas, and then it gave me a code. As you can see, is a very long code. Oh no, but well, I think I had a different one. It was a bit longer. But it's longer because it had more questions. But if you go to over here, Vista Previa, here it is. This is what I did. This is called the Grand Tour. And you can click Let's Travel, right? This is level 1, the Beach Explorer. And then this is like a travel log. And then we have a grammar check. So you can ask your students, all right, which verb is the past form of swim? And they just on, or they tell you swam. And you can go to the next one, right? Next destination. This is the city backpacker. And, you know, and well, I specifically told them to have colors, to have audio, and all of that. So, well, I think this is very useful. If you like these kind of activities or this kind of thing, you can share it, right? You can copy the content, and then over here we have to choose the correct sentence. For example, right? I buy a map. I bought a map. I buying a map. Over here, we're talking about the past, right? So next testing. So this is how it works. So in case you want to try it, don't forget to select Canvas at the bottom. So let's go. Let's continue. What did you think of this? I see some people saying, awesome, that is amazing. Yes. Uh-huh. I agree. I think it's awesome. Yes, I always use it. Very good. Let's move on then, because we're almost finishing. Now, I showed you one way of, don't forget the prompting thing, the R.O.C.E.F, right? Now, I want to show you this. This is Suno AI. Are you familiar with Suno AI? Yes, no, you've seen it before. Well, Suno AI it's free, by the way. Let's start there. It's free and you can create your own music. Now, does that sound interesting to you? For me, it didn't until I saw this. I found out that with Suno, you could create like literally any kind of music, like any kind of music, any type of prompt. You just give it to Suno, and then Suno would create it. So I said, you know what? I need, because my students have difficulties pronouncing the past tense of the regular verbs with the ed. That sounds like t or d, right? So they were having troubles. They were having, trouble with that. And they were having trouble with the irregular verbs, right? Like swim and swam and swam. And so they didn't know how to pronounce it, because when you tell the students, okay, there are no shortcuts, you have to learn it by heart, what do? They just said something like ring rang rung, right? But it doesn't sound like that. And so I said, you know what? Maybe Suno can help me with this. And I asked, Suno, can you help me create a song specifically about irregular verbs, irregular and regular verbs in the past, so students can practice their pronunciation? And Suno created this song. It's called Yesterday We Flew. And let's take a look. I'm going to show you the lyrics over here. I'm going to play just like 20-30 seconds of this, because I have to be honest with you, I've been listening to this on repeat. I am obsessed with this song. This is actually this is something that I would actually listen to on a daily basis, like on my way to work, on my way to, a party. So let's take a look at this. I'm gonna play my song. This is mine now, all right? I can share it with you. It's okay.
We went to the park last night. The stars shone so bright in the sky. We sat, we laughed, we didn't cry. We drank from dreams we couldn't see. We ran through time, wild and free.
What do you think? Wait, the best is coming, the chorus.
Yesterday we flew. We knew we grew, we sang a song, we swam along. We thought before we brought it to.
What do you think about this? I think it's great. It's so catchy. You're right. I'm reading the comments now. It's wow, it's awesome. And don't forget it's free, right? We just need to know the platforms, the right platforms, because everything is, there. It's on the internet. We just need to know how to use it, when to use it. And I saw lots of teachers using music. Part of my job is also watch or um, observe classes, and I've seen lots of teachers start with songs. So why not start with your own song, right? It's original. It's an original song. So I think it's great. Let's move on then. Right? This is Suno AI. Take notes. And Well, let's go over here. There was a recent piece in this was a few weeks ago in the Washington Post that really made me stop and think, wow, look at look at what's happening. It's um schools are currently in an what we call AI gold rush. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants to teach them. Everyone wants to know about it. And the concern is that we've been become obsessed with tools and teaching kids which buttons you have to click or how you can write a basic paragraph um, when they're just learning to read and write. So this was a problem, right? This was happening. We need to teach them correctly, and we need to go step by step. So in this article or this piece of news, um, the teachers, they interviewed or they gathered some information from the teachers, and some of the teachers, especially one teacher that was in charge of a class of in artificial intelligence, made the students complete before them being, you know, exposed to artificial intelligence. They were talking about it. So the teacher this asked the students to complete. I think AI is interesting because I'm worried about AI because, and then the students were giving some of their ideas. The teacher, before showing any kind of platform or any type of, you know, generative AI, the teacher taught them vocabulary, what data is, what machine learning is, what bias was, um, what's a prompt. The teacher was also teaching them about algorithms, right? Algorithms. They, the teacher was also teaching them about, you know, you have to practice with purpose, with the guidance, of course, of adults to develop agency. Now, this doesn't happen in all the classes, of course. This class in this school in particular, they had a class on that. I know that maybe the curriculum doesn't allow it, but if it does, it would be great because this is coming and it's coming hard. And students need to develop this agency. So the goal now is to move from being proficient users to being architects, right? Students are going to be the architects of technology. And if we don't, we risk them, you know, we risk that they're going to lose their autonomy to the to the tool that they were supposed to help them with. And yes, this is why this is so important. Let's move on to the teacher's role, because we were talking about that teacher with, I think it was a sixth grade. And in the past, you probably heard this. The teacher was the sage on the stage. For decades, we heard that. But now we've transitioned into, you know, this guide on the side. And yeah, what do you think about this? Have you seen it before? Have you heard this expression? I actually found this on the web. I mean, a very similar picture, but I didn't like the picture, so I asked Gemini to make it prettier. um, so, so that was the teacher's role, a guide on the side. However, I feel like the teacher is so much more. I mean, are you only a guide on the side? Teachers are so much more. Teachers are facilitators. Every time I ask someone like, what's a teacher's role? The teacher's role is a facilitator. But we're so much more than that. I'm not just a facilitator, I'm sorry. But we're motivators. We are evaluators. We're assistants. We are lecturers. We are leaders. We are technical supporters. We monitor. We develop resources. So we do so many things. It's hard to, you know, just be defined by one word. Now, what is the teacher's role in the age of AI? I couldn't say like a lecturer. So I found this and it clicked. When I saw this, I think it clicked and I said, yes, that's what I'm being. That's what I am right now. I'm being a curator of information. And I thought it was really interesting because that's what I do before my classes start. I try to find information, I curate the information, and then I show it to you, just like I did with this presentation. So, as a curator of information, you, me, us, we decide when the artificial intelligence is helpful for a quick summary and when the artificial intelligence is actually better for the students to do the heavy lifting themselves. You are the one who teaches them that just because Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT wrote a beautiful essay doesn't mean that the facts that are inside the essay are true, right? We need to curate the truth. And that's something that only humans, right? Because we have this critical reasoning, critical thinking, we can do. Um, AI cannot curate experiences, right? They can curate data. So you know your students better than anybody. You know their backgrounds, you know their humor, you know what's going to make them laugh, you know their struggles. And you curate the AI to fit their unique culture, right, in your classes. So there is a big impact of AI on the environment, and this is the drinking water. Have you heard that before? That AI is taking up a lot of water. Let's watch 1 minute of this video because we only have like a few more minutes. So let's watch this short video, and then we're going to discuss this.
1/15 of a teaspoon. That's how much water the average single interaction with ChatGPT uses, according to Sam Altman, the boss of OpenAI. So if you type, "Can you help me solve this maths problem?" that's a drop. Or, "Can I put lime instead of lemon in this recipe?" That's a drop. Or, "Why is the sky blue? Help me write this email. Help me improve my website code." Mr. Altman claims there are 1 billion messages sent to ChatGPT every day. And ChatGPT is just one AI bot. Chuck in Gemini, DeepSeek, Claude, and others. It's clear that the AI revolution is a thirsty one. Striking though it is, some experts are more than a little skeptical of Sam Altman's estimate on water usage.
At this point, there was just not enough information for me to agree with or trust the number. Their number was perhaps referring to some tiny models. We're considering a medium-sized large language model. That's the size of GPT-3, basically.
So we're not going to watch the video, but over here have a few main points. Right? It says that roughly 20 to 50 entries, for example, the system drinks about 500 millimeters of water. That's the equivalent of a standard bottle of water that you can buy at the grocery store. And that is basically to cool the, all these big process or our questions. And so it's estimated that by 2030, the electricity demand for AI optimized data centers is expected to increase by 400%. So that's going to be a lot. To put that in perspective, that is roughly the entire annual electricity consumption of the UK. So there's maybe the problem with the water is not happening now, but at some point it's going to happen because I don't see, that this is going to stop anytime soon. So anytime you're using word wall, with AI, or you're using Canva with AI, or Kahoot with AI, think about that. Think about, do just one right prompt, and we're not going to be consuming so much water, and you're also going to be using it correctly without so many biases. And yeah, let's take a look at some of the conclusions so we can finish with this. Let's remember that doing a task with Gen AI isn't the same as learning from it. Um, Over there, we only have the output, but the true learning is the cognitive process of struggling with the concept. Piaget said that when you struggle, then you learn. As machines get smarter, human skills matter more. Machines master all the technical tasks, but we have human only skills like empathy, like ethical judgment, and of course, complex collaboration. Students must learn to think before they learn to prompt. It's like when you use a calculator, for example, you need to know math. How can you use a calculator if you don't know math? You're gonna have the calculator like this, and you're not gonna do you're not gonna know what to do. So students must still go through the cognitive struggle to build that skill. Students must develop the thinking. There's a shift on the focus from teaching students how to use AI to developing learner agency, right? Over here, we need to develop this ability to direct, to challenge, to even reject AI, um, to get the result that we wanted. Having autonomy, motivation, and ownership are, features of having this agency. AI should support, not replace, pedagogy, and teachers must lead with educational goals and not trends. Not because it's trendy, it means you're going to use it. So, and the teacher is irreplaceable, right? Let's never forget that. So you will not be replaced by technology. However, you will be replaced if you don't use it. Knowing how to use it correctly will make a difference. And well, that is exactly the message of today. Tools help, but it's teachers who truly transform learning. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon, for this very enlightening presentation. There's so much to cover about this topic, but I have a question from the chat, and a question that also coincided with something that was written on the form when we registered to attend this wonderful session. And the question is, how can I use ChatGPT in my class? What do you have to say about that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say probably do not use it in class. Hopefully before the class. I mean, for teachers, we can plan our lessons in advance. I don't see people trying to use ChatGPT in class, because if we're doing a writing activity, then I wanna know the students' ideas and not the ChatGPT's ideas, right? So yeah, let's try to avoid that specific help from different sources, and let's try to use our own ideas in class.
All right, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and I like the fact that it coincides with the core, with the main essence of the university, right? The human touch can never be lost. And the human interaction is what we have to cherish the most from going to class. So please bear in mind that we have the second part, as Mr. Schwarzenberg has mentioned many a times along the session, and the session where we will cover what will be covered that day. The second part, Simon, what we will talk about.
We will talk about ethical use of AI.
All
Yeah, so
righty.
it's going to be very
So we
interesting.
will meet again. Yeah, indeed. We will meet on May 20th for the second session of this very same topic. So make sure that you register for this session, and also make sure that you have registered your attendance on the chat. There is a link that you have to fill out in order to get two things, as we mentioned at the beginning of today's session: your certificate and a summary. Will you be providing, Simon, maybe some links to the information that was shown today?
Absolutely. Yes.
All righty.
They
So
will
then
receive
we
the
have
summary of the presentation.
we will have a summary and some of the links, some of them. The topic is
Some of
very
them.
wide, and it would be not possible to cover everything in only 1 hour and a half. So stay alert, stay tuned for the second part. And for the raffle, we will contact you by mail, and you will see very shortly who the winner is among all people that attended today's session and is eager to learn on how to implement digital resources wisely in class. And wisely is a word that was mentioned many times in the chat. Thank you very much, SBS, for organizing this, for letting us get in touch with teachers along all over our country and abroad. And thank you very much, Simon, for this wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.